How do you compensate your SaaS sales reps? On today's episode of LTV, I'm talking cold hard numbers. How do you structure your quotas and commission for people on your sales team? Let's dig in. Few things inspire as much conversation among startup founders as how to set quotas and commissions for your sales team. It can be tricky to figure out if you've never done it before. I've employed salespeople now for over 3 years, and over time we've gotten a little bit closer each time to figuring it out. Although like any process, it will always adapt and evolve as the company grows. To begin, let's get a few things straight. I'm assuming that you have a sales team or are looking to build one. You sell a SaaS product to mid or large size customers, anywhere from a few $1,000s in annual contract value to 6 figures and up. If you sell a low priced product to small customers, you probably shouldn't have a sales team, although you may want one if you're testing out larger pricing tiers with bigger customers. And for more on that, actually check out another video that I made on moving up market. So with all that out of the way, let's look at a few things. How do you compensate them? Most salespeople are paid a base salary plus commission. Now the commission is a percentage of the revenue that they bring in each month. A common percentage is 10% of gross sales, but it can be more or less depending on what you sell. The salary you pay them plus the commission you pay them, assuming that they're hitting quota, is what's known as on-target earnings, or OTE. It's a shorter way to refer to your total sales comp per rep, because it factors in salary and commission. For example, if your sales rep makes $50K as a base salary and then they hit their target, they could bring in another $50K in commission, so their OTE would be $100K. How do you determine quota? There's no really easy way to answer this, but keep in mind, a standard practice is you want your quota-carrying sales reps to generate 5 times their OTE. So for example, if your account executive makes $100K, they would need to close $500K a year in revenue. In enterprise sales, a seasoned rep could make $500K per year, but generate $2.5 million in revenue. What happens if your reps don't hit their quota? So if you have a new and unproven sales process, don't punish your reps too harshly for missing quota. As your process matures and you know for a fact that most of your sales reps can hit their quota or exceed them consistently, you'll want to gradually make the punishment for missing your quota a little bit harsher. So you could have a lower commission percentage for any revenue below quota. So as soon as quota is reached by your sales rep in that month, then the percentage point jumps up to whatever your standard commission rate is. Here's how to handle commissions on recurring revenue. So that gets asked a lot, and there's a lot of confusion, specifically as it relates to SaaS around recurring revenue. So if your sales rep closes a monthly customer, for example, do you commission them just on the first month? Do you commission them for the whole year on the monthly fee? What about the lifetime value of the customer? Do you commission them on that? Here's the thing, monthly deals they're gonna add a lot of complexity to your sales comp plan, right? They're riskier, because a monthly customer is at a higher risk of churn than one who's committed to paying an annual fee. So if possible, I recommend putting rules in place for your sales team so that they know that closing deals that don't fit your criteria, they're not going to be counted in their numbers. Let's say that they only get commissioned to sell annual deals of a certain size. So anything from, say, 5K ACV or up is only what gets allowed. Anything less than that and they don't get a commission on it, or it doesn't get factored into their quota. They'll only get commission on the first year, not ongoing renewals. You really want to be incentivizing them to hunt for new customers. Also, if the customer cancels within the first year, the commission should get clawed back. And this gives them incentive to only close good fit customers who they feel confident can be successful using your product. And it avoids all that end of month scrambling to try to close deals even if they're bad fit just to hit quota. So what about expansion revenue? Problems arise when you commission your reps on upselling existing customers. Sure, it can work in the short term and it can help boost your MRR, but it should be a means to an end, not really a long-term strategy. It's really complex to track and report on, right? So if a sales rep upsells a 5K customer on a new 7K per year plan, well, you shouldn't really pay them a full commission on that entire deal because they really only upsold them by 2K. So now you've got to break out the expansion revenue differently, which can just be a headache to manage. Also, it can take time and focus away from you closing new customers, which is really what you want your salespeople to be doing. Your customer success team is there to onboard new customers. They're there to handle renewals, and ultimately they get rewarded for retaining the customers that your sales team works so hard to acquire. And they also get rewarded for expanding the revenue from those customers over time. Now, I recommend an entirely different comp model for your customer success team. One that really aligns with that farmer mindset that customer success has versus the hunter mindset that salespeople have. The way that we do it at Proposify is that our CSMs are bonused out quarterly, and the bonus is a percentage of how much ARR, or annual recurring revenue, that they manage. In other words, their book value. So the percentage will be higher the lower the net MRR churn. Now, I know that sounds confusing, so let's put it another way. The more accounts that your CSMs oversee, their book value, the lower their churn, which factors in expansion revenue, the more money they'll make. Right? So they're incentivized to grow the book value while keeping the churn in the negatives. Hope that makes sense. The only exception is if a sales rep closes what they know to be a land and expand deal. So for example, a deal might come in where they know that the customer's only going to buy a relatively small amount of seats at the beginning, and then if onboarding goes really well, they'll roll that into a much larger seat deal. In these cases, we'll allow the sales rep and the CSM to work on that together and split the commission, since really the rep is needed to close that larger deal, but also the CSM was needed to successfully roll out the product for that customer and make sure that the rollout goes well. But other than that, reps are only commissioned on the initial annual deal. So naturally, this puts some pressure on them to maximize their deal size and land the biggest deal possible. But they have to balance that, knowing that the bigger the deal, the harder it is to close and the longer it will take. All right, let's look at the comp structure. So a common misconception is that sales reps make a commission on every sale they bring in. Well, okay, that's kind of true, but not exactly. So the way it works is you put a 10% commission or whatever percentage you're talking about, and that is for their overall quota. So every time a rep closes a deal, that counts towards their revenue. In practice, you're going to pay that commission out on a monthly basis at the beginning of every month, usually coinciding with the regular payroll. So the amount that they get will depend on how much they closed last month. So if their total sales for last month was $50K and they get a 10% commission, well, then they'll get that extra $5K on their next paycheck that week, of course, minus deductions. All right, let's talk about accelerators. Accelerators are a way to encourage reps to exceed quota. So let's say that your quota is that $50K per month that each rep needs to close. Now, if they exceed quota and close $60K, well, you want to be able to give them a much higher percentage on that extra revenue that they closed. So let's say you pay them 20% on anything above quota. Well, that $10K that they close, now they get 20% on that extra $10K. So spiffs. What sales rep doesn't like spiffs? Okay, you don't know what they are. Spiffs are bonuses above and beyond commission. So sales reps, by their nature, are competitive people. They really like to win. Spiffs are rewards for hitting certain targets, right? And they can be large or small. They can be cash. They can be some other kind of prize like gift cards, swag, tickets to local events. For example, we have a spiff where we'll pay $500 cash on top of commission if a rep closes a deal from a cold call, right? So they didn't get that lead inbound. They went out and hunted them themselves. Now, here's another spiff. If the rep hits their quarterly stretch target, they get an all expenses paid trip anywhere for two to anywhere they want with a 10K max. That's a really good spiff, but they have to hit a big number to get that. If the entire sales team hits their end of year stretch target, they'll get to fly away for a few days to another city. Now, what about your non-quota carrying reps? So it might sound strange, but not every sales rep on your team necessarily closes deals and revenue, right? Some of them are there to help prospect or qualify leads for your closers, and so they need to get commission too. Now, in general, I try to avoid comping on behaviors, right? Like number of phone calls or emails sent. It's way too easy to game that system, and it doesn't directly translate to revenue. So for our SDRs, our sales development reps, those are the people that qualified. They're allowed to close small deals under a certain size if they're not big enough to go to an AE. But they'll also get commissioned on those deals plus a blended comp for the number of opportunities that they're sending through to the salespeople. Finally, you want to provide a career path for your sales rep. So you want to provide an incentive for your junior reps to move up into bigger and better roles on the team based on their performance. Now, most sales organizations have a clearly defined chart with increases in quota and commissions as soon as they hit certain milestones. So new and inexperienced salespeople, they'll usually start out as SDRs or BDRs doing the cold calling or the qualifying. And then if they prove themselves, they move up into an AE or an account executive role. And the AE role itself is broken into several tiers, so that tier 1 AE, if they exceed quota consistently, they might move up into the next tier where they get a higher commission percentage, but also a higher quota. So I hope this episode cleared up some confusion around sales comp, and I hope you can use it to really get started as you build out your sales team. Now, I've provided a free guide that you can use for sales comp, which is linked to in the description below. Please share and leave a comment if you like this, and I'll see you next time.
This episode of Lifetime Value is brought to you by Proposify. Proposify improves sales productivity so your team spends less time creating proposals and more time selling. Start your free trial at proposify.com and be sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a single episode.